The agriculture sector is one that has a huge potential to boost our gross domestic product, our foreign exchange earnings, and employment generation. You know, though a lot was achieved in the past, the federal government has intensified efforts to ensure that Nigeria regains her lost glory in this sector. I'm Chioma Kijani, and it's good to have you join me on AMOI Unplugged, Exploring Diversity. My guest on the show today is a farmer, a teacher, a politician, an intellectual par excellence, and boy, is he passionate about agriculture. He is the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Chief Innocent Audu Ogbe. As always, it's exciting, illuminating, and refreshing, and it is a must watch. So stay with AMOI Unplugged. Welcome to AMOI Unplugged, Your Excellency. And I know I'm not supposed to call you Excellency, but I can't help myself.
Thank you very much for coming to the farm. Yeah.
To the farm. You know, it's been 3 years since we last spoke, and you were just nominated. You came on board. I spoke to you. There was so much excitement. There was so much you wanted to do. So we're going to get at it. The first question is, I remember 3 years ago you said that Nigeria had the potential to be the largest market in Africa. And actually Nigeria could feed the whole of West Africa if only we could sustain ourselves. Now, how far has your sector gone in reducing how much Nigeria spends, which is a whopping $32 billion per year on food imports? How far have you gone?
Well, the most important testimony comes from the CBN. The CBN governor announced that we have reduced expenditure on food imports by $21 billion.
Wow.
In 34 months.
Wow.
$21 billion US in 34 months.
That's incredible.
And we're on our way to doubling that figure in another year. Now, how far have we gone? When I said those things, I meant them. Today, Nigeria is the second largest producer of sorghum on planet Earth, after the US.
Really?
We are the biggest producers of maize in Africa and number 9 in the world. We are the leaders in cassava production worldwide, the biggest producers of yams, the second producer of sorghum. We are the 4th producer of millet after India, and it goes on, and it's increasing. And now we are the leading producers of rice in Africa. Rival to a small extent by Mali. So we are getting there.
You know, let's go back to 2015, because the figures that you just railed out is incredible. What do you think made the difference that really got Nigerians, that got all the stakeholders saying to themselves, we have no choice but to do well in agriculture?
First of all, it was in November 17th, 2 days after I got into office, and the president said we should go with him to Kebbi, with the CBN governor. And then at that point, it was clear he wanted to drive this sector. But the biggest single key was the reduction in interest rates on agriculture. The 9% under the Anchor Borrowers Program. Now, I have been in agriculture for God knows how long, since the age of 5, following my father to the farm. And it was peasant agriculture. We did just enough to feed for 4 or 5 months a year. But since I grew up and got into agriculture at a fairly higher level, I have complained about one thing which the economists and the very highly learned individuals and politicians too have paid no attention to. Interest rates in the 60s and early 70s, up to the end of 1982-3, were 3-4%.
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria. The Naira was about $1.50, and the Naira was £1 sterling. Oh yes, because Nigeria accounted for 43% of the world's total output of palm oil. 43%. You know the figure now? 2%.
What?
Yes. What was then the East, led by Michael Okpara and others, gave the world 43% of the world's total consumption of palm oil. It's down to 2%. We were way ahead in the skies in groundnuts and soybeans. Then, of course, the oil revenues came, and slowly it was better for somebody in the village to be a messenger in an office than stay doing cocoa on his cocoa farm in Ibadan. So there was this migration. Cash as a shiny substitute for wealth. And we didn't have the philosophical orientation to drive the message. Cash is not wealth. It isn't. Wealth gives you cash. If you have cash, convert it to wealth and let the wealth give you cash as you need it. We got caught by the fever, or what they call the Dutch disease. Oil, oil, oil. We wanted jobs in the cities. All that started changing our attitude to life and revising our habits. And so we all walked away from the farms, leaving our old parents there. And slowly everything declined till we became a net importer of food. So two things. A lower interest rate on agric, 9%, which is still too high. Our desire is to bring it to 5%, because we're about to commercialize and privatize the agric bank and call all farmers and Nigerians to buy shares. We want to raise 250 billion.
Wow.
And then farmers can walk into their branches and talk, because the manager will inevitably be somebody who knows farmers and is living in the community. And they can borrow money. We'll tell the world that this is a powerful agri hub.
Now, I'm taking you back to 2015 when I first met you. You talked about a number of things that, and I just want to know how far you've gone with them, just to give our viewers an update. I'm going to start off with food staples and wheat production. Back in 2015, you said that you were very ready and willing and able, and there was a political will to accelerate those produce. How far have you been able to work with the farmers and the stakeholders in terms of moving the produce of food staples and wheat production?
The biggest of the staples is rice. We've cut down importation by 90%.
How were you able to do that?
By sheer
Well,
quantification of production, encouragement of more farmers into rice production. There were 5 million farmers in the Rice Farmers Association in November 2015. Today there are 13 million of them.
wow.
13 million. And they do some 3 crops a year.
And what's the breakdown of women and youth? Is there, do you have...
Interestingly enough, women are actually the majority of the workers, because when it comes
Naturally.
to planting and harvesting and threshing on the farms and winnowing and bagging, they are the unsung heroes in agriculture.
Okay.
We are trying to relieve that now by procuring machinery for them to cut the rice and thresh it, and the machine does the winnowing and the bagging and all that, because it's a lot of stress. If you harvest a crop like soybeans, it itches the skin. And in many states where soybean is grown, sometimes the divorce rate around that time can be high, because the women really go through a lot of stress. The whole skin itches.
Wow.
So we try to get them gloves now and give them machines and so on. So rice,
you're equipping them with the right...
equipping them with harvesters, threshers and winnowers. One of the most fascinating things happening now is an IDP on the outskirts of Abuja here in Karu. The Esu Karu gave them land there, IDPs from Borno State, from a place called Goza. I have never seen, believe you me, in my whole life, such massive production of red beans. I haven't.
How did they do that?
These people arrived. Borno has always been the leader in beans and groundnuts. Oh yes, until the Boko Haram crisis came in. These guys are producing beans in trucks, were there from Lagos, from Rivers, from Enugu, from Zaria, loading red beans and taking away. They requested that I should do them in their market, a toilet, a fence, and we're working on that. We're moving the machines there next week. And then they wanted their road graded, and they wanted shellers, machines to shell their, and I'm moving them in. I have not seen anything of the sort. Instead of IDPs begging for food, these guys are making money.
They're entrepreneurs.
Absolutely, and it's fascinating. So this call by the president to Nigerians to return to the farm, it has proved one thing. Leaders must thrive. They must call the people to work. And Nigerians respond, especially if you give them some basic support. So in the staples, we've done very well. The only problem we have is wheat. Wheat grows in most of the Sahel states, the far north. Sokoto, Zamfara, Kebbi, Jigawa, Katsina, Kano. Borno was a big player. Now, we have a variety of wheat developed in Maiduguri at the Wheat Research Institute, which we took to Austria recently. They tested it in the lab and said they had not seen that kind of wheat in quality anywhere in the world.
Our wheat?
Our wheat.
In Maiduguri?
Yes. Because again, there is this fighting going on, the Lake Chad Research Institute can't function now.
Wow.
But the seeds are available in Kano, Katsina, and so on. We have a challenge. The local wheat millers have come here and we've met with the farmers in my office here. We said, let's have an agreement. When they grow, please buy it back. Somewhere along the line, it has not been easy for the flour mills to follow up on this agreement. So, and they say that the cost of our local wheat is higher than the landing cost of imported wheat. Now, I know one of the reasons why foreign wheat is cheaper. Our wheat here can only grow through irrigation.
Water. And
the cost of water, the cost of diesel, like now diesel has gone up from 160 naira a liter to 240.
Wow.
That coincides with the planting season. So that raises the cost, but we found a solution. Solar pumps. And we're bringing them in large numbers from India. You can actually sit in your house now and instruct your pump to give your farm 2 hours of rain and stop.
Crazy.
The only other thing is somebody might go there and pinch your solar panels. So you have to be around there.
Yeah.
Now, once we remove the cost of fuel and subsidize the use of solar panels to irrigate the fields, the price of wheat in Nigeria will fall below that of the US or Brazil. And this is where, but we're getting there.
This is AMOI Unplugged. I'm Chioma Kijani, and we'll be right back. You mentioned the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is research and development, right? Yes. It's a big player in agriculture. Yeah. How far have you guys gone, particularly in trying to manage the high rate of malnutrition that unfortunately still thrives in our society?
It's a pretty terrible thing because in some of the states, among the young people, it's as high as 67%.
Wow.
Now, the first 5 years of a child are absolutely strategic in the formation of the brain, the cells, and the brawn. Now, if a child loses those 5 years to lack of, especially protein intake, that child is as good as a machine in terms of capacity to think. In a knowledge-driven world, that's not good for us. We're working on that. One of the most strategic grains we can use is groundnuts, then beans, and then milk. Unfortunately, we're spending $1.2 billion a year importing milk.
Oh,
and it's powdered milk. It's not the best quality. Powdered milk, which you reconstitute to make yogurt and so on, is a very low quality milk. The other issue is that Africans are known or said to be lactose intolerant.
Yes.
So when you drink milk, your skin, you have rashes and you have allergy. However, we have a solution. Include a bit of lactase in your milk, and then you neutralize the effect, the negative effect of it. That's what India did. Yes, and we can produce the lactase here. So, but we're not producing enough milk.
So how do we rattle that issue of?
We're going to deal with that now because we're slowly trying to stop the cows roaming.
Okay.
First, they must stop roaming. Two, for them to stop roaming, you must give them water and food in situ. The less they walk and the more water they get, the higher the yield of milk and the better the quality of meat. If we don't get the food thing right, if families can't spend as little as 20% of their budget on feeding their families, we are not yet a country. We
can become self-sufficient.
Precisely. Oh, we're on our way. So this is what we're doing. Stop the cows roaming. When they stay in one spot and you give them good water and grass, The yield of milk per cow in this country will go, the worst cow here will give you at least 15 liters of milk per day within 6 months.
Wow.
Now we get 1 liter.
Wow.
Compared to 50 liters in Europe. Number 2, we're doing cattle breed improvement now. Crossbreeding with different varieties to get either heifers for milk or bulls or particular cows for beef.
And you haven't even talked about the infections that the cows may get when they're
We have ticks and face flies and horn flies, and even some of the cows have what they call bovine TB, which can actually pass on to human beings.
Wow.
But vet doctors then will be able to treat them in these reservations, because when they are sick, you take them away and do so.
The other thing that you talked about in 2015 that I'd like you to comment on is tackling food poisoning,
yes,
which has led to an increase in cancer of the liver,
exactly,
the kidney.
Exactly.
How far has that gone? How are you tackling that?
We have started very slowly. We're going to engage the National Orientation Agency and the social media. We're going to buy time. We'll start talking to Nigerians and tell them, once you read this, pass on the word. One of them is moi moi. You go to the party, right? They
Yes.
give you moi moi to eat.
Yes. I love moi moi.
Good. But don't eat the one served to you from a plastic, from a cellophane bag.
Ah.
Don't touch it.
Why?
It's poison. At that temperature in the pot, from the cellophane, so much dioxin has been pumped into the beans that you're actually eating poison.
Oh my goodness.
The best one is the one done with the leaf.
Like in the olden days.
The leaf is an antioxidant. It's called the Daniela, that's the name of the leaf. That, under heat, actually gives you a good substance for your body, for detoxifying your body. But people don't know this. Then you go to the market where the women are processing tomatoes and onions. That tiny machine,
yes,
which the Nigerian genius has created to granulate the stuff.
the grinding.
Yeah, now, the grinding has a problem. As long as two pieces of metal are rubbing against each other, pieces are getting into the food. And the liver and the kidney can't handle these things. So we're now building stainless steel ones designed in such a way that there are only blades that don't rub against anything. But I can slice the tomato or the onions or the pepper or whatever in tiny little shreds, and you can go home and eat that. They are very expensive, so we're going to have to subsidize them. Then you have packaging. Polypropylene bags. At high temperatures, there are beans and grains are put in them. If the grains didn't dry well enough before you loaded them, the grains begin to sweat. And when they sweat, they gather mold. And that mold is also a cancer problem. Even the way we dry beans by the roadside as we travel.
Yes, I see
Now all
that.
the fume from the cars are settling into those things. So you hear that a family ate amala and 7 of them died at night. And somebody will tell you it's witchcraft. Then of course now people are preserving beans using sniper. DDPV they call it. It's a very poisonous chemical. So we're now teaching these farmers, where I went to the farm, don't put any chemical, just put 2 cartons of pepper in your bag and sow it. There is no way any weevil or insect can survive in the bag. Then of course they use calcium carbide to ripen mangoes.
I heard about that.
Yes, and bananas. And bananas, and yes. But it's education. We have to slowly keep telling them this, because yes, too many young people are coming down with kidney, liver failure. Why? Do you drink? No. Do you smoke? No. Something in the food, yes. And then of course water. We are way behind. I'm glad the president launched the
state of emergency.
Yes, because in the rural areas we have typhoid, malaria, and cholera.
It's all waterborne.
Exactly. So this is all part of it.
Well, let's talk about something that is good. I know you're excited about, because you travel a lot. Technology and new machinery. I know this is something that you said you were going to try and bring in 2015. A lot of people want mechanized farming. So how far have we gone? I mean, I know that what you often say to me when we talk is, you know, Choma, my biggest challenge is trying to get the states to be aware that they need to get tractors. So how far have you gone in looking at technology in one instance, and then new machinery?
Well, let me begin with the indigenous technology. We are doing a lot of things very quietly. two young men have started making tractors here. They take the tricycle and convert it. I have two such tricycles on my farm in Kuje here. There's another boy in Plateau who is building tractors, very small machines, precisely the kind of thing that 2-3 families can own because they don't have more than 2 or 3 hectares. And these things are very sturdy.
Wow.
By a process of reverse engineering, they copy. Nothing is indigenous anymore. I mean, everybody is copying from somewhere. I mean, you see how it is, dismantle it and copy. Then we have machines now for planting cassava and harvesting cassava. Because gari prices go up in the dry season, you know why? It's very difficult to harvest cassava in the dry season. It breaks the back. The ground is too tough. So now you go and you uproot the cassava and put it in your trailer and come home.
Well, what's exciting is the local content.
Yes, that's it. So a lot of work is going on, and some of these machines are stronger than some of what we import. But we're also doing research in chemicals, in seed. We launched new seeds of cotton, the hybrid cotton, that can now give us 3.5 tons of cotton per hectare instead of 1 ton.
Is that the BT cotton?
The BT cotton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now Pakistan does 5 tons, India does 5 tons. We do less than 1 ton here. So no farmer will waste his time. If he can do 5 tons of maize, why waste his time on cotton? So they're moving back. So we can revive the textile industry. We had the most robust textile industry, one of the most robust in. We're rivaling India and Pakistan, and we crashed out. And smugglers took over. What I'm wearing is 12 meters. What you're wearing is 6 meters. So we wear more cloth as a people than most people in the world. Why then do we kill the textile industry and depend on outsiders? You can imagine what will come. We had textile mills in Kano, Kaduna, Ikeja, Apapa, Aba textiles. All of them dead.
But I know there's a political will to revive that.
Yes.
How far?
It's moving on because the first thing is the seed. And we have partners coming from Holland. They also do the Hollandese, and the Chinese and others are coming. And there are Nigerians who have investments. I want to go back to that. Even making uniforms for the police and the army, the customs and so on.
Yes.
This country is a huge, a huge industrial complex waiting to happen. But we lost track by too much importation. And young people, our children and grandchildren, can't find jobs. So you hear people on TV say, oh, we'll create 10 million jobs. How? How? Government will employ more? We can't pay the minimum wage. You want to bring in more? If you do, there will be nothing to tar a road, a 1 inch of Nigerian road. You can't. But the private sector, if government energizes, this country will amaze the world, and we must do so. Otherwise, we lose this country.
But you know, the good thing, I mean, for me, the takeaway for me in the last 3 years is the awareness. We're talking about it, right? I mean, before we weren't even talking about it. We were just importing. Now there's that political will, right? So stakeholders are saying exactly the same thing you're saying, because everybody, you know, people have children, and they don't want to be looking after their children. They want their children to be working.
Precisely.
I also remember 3 years ago you talked about packaging of raw food products.
Exactly.
I think this is the jute bag.
That's the jute bag.
So how far have you gone with this? Because when I spoke to you 3 years ago, I didn't even know what it was. I didn't have the privilege of actually seeing one. So how far have you gone with this?
Good. We've decided to do...
This is a big one.
Yes. This is an 80 kg bag. Yes. We do them in... there's a
Nigerian made?
Yes.
Wow.
There's a 75 kg, there's a 100 kg, there's a 50 kg, depending on what you're packaging and depending on the demand of your customers overseas, right? Now here, this thing is called, the raw material is called kenaf or jute. We had 2 factories in this country in the 60s. One in Jos, in the company that makes Nasco biscuits. And then one was in Badagry, set up by Awolowo to package cocoa, because you can't export these things in any other package but jute bags. They are called carbon-free jute bags. And we spray them with vegetable oil after producing them. So plastics came, so we decided granules of polypropylene and then started making these plastic bags. So because we stopped growing kenaf, which in Hausa is called Rama. It grows a lot more from northern Oyo all the way to the far north, right? You plant it, it grows very tall, like could be as tall as this ceiling, and then the flower is very good vegetable, almost like moringa.
Okay.
And, yes, and the house has eaten it a lot. You harvest it, run it through a machine, it takes out the rope and leaves the core. You know what we do with the core? We sell it to car manufacturers. They convert it to the dashboard. When you sit inside a Rolls Royce or some of these expensive cars and see the fine woodwork on the dashboard, it's from Kenaf.
Oh my
But the other
goodness.
material you can use...
You mean we can actually produce this here?
Yes, yes, not a problem. Then the other thing is that if you crush it, you use it for reclaiming oil spillages. Nothing absorbs spilled oil more than the granules of Kenaf. 99.9% we soak from the soil by Kenaf, by the wooden waste.
Oh my goodness.
So we are going to start by bringing 4 lines of machine, advertising and selling to Nigerians, importing the yarn from India or Bangladesh, which is the biggest producer of jute bags in the world. And then as we integrate bagwash, in 2-3 years, we're producing enough Kenaf or jute to do what we want here. And then imagine jobs. Imagine jobs.
Well, not even imagine jobs. What I'm excited about is when you export.
Yeah.
Because the demand for Forex, this is the right material that the international...
We can export to the whole of West and Central Africa. Ivory Coast has some. They don't really grow much Kenaf. They buy yarn and weave. But everybody is going to have to use jute bags. And we have a market to cover.
I want your thoughts on the farmers and herdsmen conflict. How far have you gone with finding a solution to this issue that has become still a national worry?
The president has just approved a program. We're going to start digging earth dams and water storages everywhere in the old grazing reserves, which are still there, 415 of them.
Wow.
Covering a total land mass of 5 million football fields. We don't need more than 1/3 of that to keep the 19 million cows in this country in one place. So, I mean, we're now harvesting agro waste, rice stalks, maize stalks, bean stalks, groundnut husks to feed the cows. And then we prepare some modest accommodation using bricks for the Fulani families, but also gather the dung to generate electricity. And that's what they do in Pakistan and many places. They have them, they call them cattle colonies here. If you use that here, of course, you start a civil war in the media. But that's what they are. We have one with about 200 or 300 herdsmen in one location. Each knows his cattle, they're all numbered, they all have trackers now, right? You bury it under the skin and you can track your cow. And you have electricity supply, you have water, you have security.
They don't need to go anywhere.
No, then milk processors now get a lease on the equipment, gather the milk every morning, so the Fulani women don't have to roam around, and the children can go to school.
Wow.
It's a whole program in one.
It's a value chain.
It is.
Let's go to small-scale farmers for a moment. What initiatives have you put in place to assist the small-scale farmers?
The best initiative is the single-digit interest rate. The second initiative is that the central bank is leading the anchor borrowers program by supplying this money, because before now...
What exactly is the... For those that are watching that are not familiar with the anchor...
The anchor borrowers program is this. When I go to the CBN and say, give me money to give these farmers, when they grow, I guarantee an uptake. So I'm the anchor. And then when I'm paying back, when the farmers are paying back, right, I deduct the seeds I gave them from there before I pay the balance of the loan to the central bank. That's the meaning of the anchor borrower. The CBN is doing that to make sure that you don't just give loans and farmers tell you they had no buyer. That's the idea. You anchor the loan, they give them the stuff, they produce for you, and then you take it up.
What role does the youth play in your strategy in the agriculture?
They are the ultimate resource, because as it is, most of the farmers are over 65.
And they're retiring.
They're going. I mean, but for the youth to get involved, we have to mechanize. We have to support them with land and much more resources than we're giving them now.
Do you find that the youths in Nigeria right now are interested?
You'll be amazed how, and that's the beauty of Nigeria. When we go around the world in conferences, everybody says, the youth say, look, agriculture is not chic enough, it's not sexy enough.
Actually, Canada is having a huge problem with that.
You'll be amazed what pharmacists have moved to beekeeping. As a young Igbo girl, Miss Chika, she's a pharmacist, trained abroad. She now has a bee farm in Nasarawa here.
Bee farming?
Bee farm. You can't believe what young people are doing. And that's the other thing. They make me proud. They come in droves, they want to go in. They are a little bit limited. Once I get agric interest rates to 5%, I'll challenge the world to come and see what young people do in Nigeria, which they don't want to do elsewhere.
Okay, talk to me about Bank of Agriculture, because I know that's the key.
That's the key.
I know you want to restructure it,
yes.
And that's what you've been put in place. So give me, first of all, the bank, I didn't even know that there was a Bank of Agriculture.
Oh, yeah.
So where did that come from, and what are you doing differently now? And because I think you said that you wanted to get about 250 billion. So that means how many depositors? Is that 17 million deposit? How do you get all these people? Tell me about it. It's exciting.
The Bank of Agric came into existence in 1972. It was called the Bank of Agriculture and Cooperatives, Agri-Cooperatives and so on. Now, it's been going through transformations. Now it's the Bank of Agric. The idea was to have a bank that focuses on agri. Did fairly well in the past. Had problems with loan repayment. Again, because there were things we didn't know then, which we know now. Like? Farmers' yields were too low. Okay. We were applying the wrong fertilizer to the soil.
Of course.
NPK 15-15-15 and urea, pure and simple, right? Or single superphosphate were the only famous fertilizers. Nobody bothered to do soil tests. As we sit here, between here and the main road there, if you do a proper soil test, you find that there are differences between the soils here. So if you walk into a state and say NPK 15-15 is a magic fertilizer, you are terribly wrong.
Dead on arrival.
Do your soil test. You will find that there is a deficiency of nitrogen here, but a surplus elsewhere, or potassium this way, and too much potassium elsewhere, but less phosphate over there. So you do your soil test, and then tell your blender, blend it this way for me. This is my soil test. He knows.
So farmers are doing that now, yes, to get the right fertilizer.
Between 2015 and now, that's precisely what has made, apart from the Anko. Yes, because farmers are now doing 5 tons per hectare, 7 tons of rice, where they did a ton and a half.
That's amazing.
So those who took loans in those days couldn't repay the bank, and the bank kept going under.
Yeah.
Now very few have an excuse. Barring a disaster or flood, those who borrow now can repay. So we said, let's not keep troubling the treasury for more grants. Let's restructure the bank. Farmers now know how useful a bank can be to them. They now know the beauty of low interest rate. So they now know that if they have their own bank lending at 5%, in which we're persuading them to be shareholders, it's a different story. And that's precisely what China did. China's interest rate is 3%.
Ours is going to be between
3 and 5.
Okay.
For now at 5. China's agric bank is the largest bank on planet Earth.
Wow.
800 million clients.
Oh my goodness.
And they are so rich, they own 5-star hotels, shipping lines and so on. Bring down the interest rate, you see what Nigerians will do for you in agric, especially if research follows.
But, you know, somebody watching this would ask the question, why are banks not reducing their interest rates, which is something that has gouged you for decades?
I have been grumbling, but I'm not an economist. I guess I must be an illiterate. But I have economics, I believe, is about 90% common sense. How on God's green earth can a country hope to prosper
on 25%
if the lending rates are between 25 and 35%? And we've sat here for 32 years pretending it's all fine. And we've been told by somebody from far away there's no alternative to this policy. What do you charge in your own country?
Exactly.
And then they call us poor, the poverty capital of the world, and Nigerians love repeating it, the elite, on television. And we expect young people coming out of school to start something on their own. We tell them, you must be a job creator. With what? With their certificate?
It's very difficult.
You can't borrow. So I have been shouting, and I'm glad that the CBN is beginning to, at least, I don't want to claim I caused it, but I've been pushing them, 9% as official rate now for agri and manufacturing. But we'll go down. We have to. We must go down or nothing. Otherwise, this place can't function. Like Kebbi now, the market is $5 million a day.
It's
a day. So you see what we're doing now? We're now moving wealth into the hinterland,
yes,
into the hands of our own people, instead of shipping wealth, taking it abroad and bringing unemployment and poverty home. And our children going through the desert, getting sold in Libya. Since I came, we've given out 300 small-scale rice mills.
How does one get a rice mill?
You apply. You write, we import and sell at half price. And believe me, I've met people who told me, we're making more money in a week than we were earning in salaries, in profit.
So what have you been exporting now, if any?
Okay.
Or what is the ministry's roadmap to exporting, and how far are we?
Great news. First of all, about July this year, the Tin Can Island reported that Nigerian agro exports had gone up 150%. 150%
Wow.
since 2015. Cashew nuts, yams, beans, palm produce. In spite of the fact that we're not producing enough palm oil, we're exporting palm oil. Yes.
Again?
Yes. Sesame seed. We're exporting sesame seed to Kazakhstan. We're exporting hibiscus flower to Mexico, Zobo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So containers that used to come here and go back empty are all loaded now going.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. So now.
And is that's relieving a lot of the forex?
It is. It is. So our yams are now in Australia, in Germany, in Europe, in Canada, and the US. Before now, we didn't export yams. Ghana was famous for exporting yams. But Nigeria accounts for 70% of the world's total production of yams, including Brazil and the West Indies.
Oh, my goodness.
And then people were very angry then when I said I was going to export yams. They said the prices will rise. No. 30% of the yams we grow still rot. We overproduce. So sell some to the Nigerian in London who wants to boil his yam and eat.
Exactly.
So don't deny him, he's a Nigerian. So, and we're exporting now, there has been no shortage of yams. People panicked and they didn't like the idea much.
Something you talked about was something you've mentioned. It's been a recurrent theme in our conversation, which is storage, making sure that it's in the right temperature. In preparing for this interview, I decided that I was going to go to the indigenous markets and talk to the local people, particularly those that were handling the food produce. And I said to them, if you had an opportunity to ask the minister a question, what would be your number one question? And you know, surprisingly, they told me that I should ask you what are your plans with storage?
In the 2018 budget, we're planning to set up a network of cold rooms and fish smoking kilns. Cold rooms in places like Kano, Plateau, Kaduna, Mile 2 in Lagos, right? Enugu, and the Niger Delta, that's where we're going to put an outlay of smoking kilns. They'll be built like giant wardrobes. They're insulated in between. You come from fishing in the morning, usually they come around 4 or 5 o'clock. Before the markets open, the fish is there and fish rots very quickly.
Yes.
And then the flies begin to come. Some of them now, to keep away the flies, take shell tox and spray on the fish.
Wow.
So we're saying to them, fine, you bring your fish, we'll process the place where you have clean water, wash the fish, and if you want to smoke the fish, load them in your own chamber. We fire from below. By 8 or 9 hours later, the fish is all smoked if you want to smoke it. Yeah. Otherwise, if you want to keep them in cold storage, we have cold rooms. The only challenge there will be electricity. Whereas the place in Rivers now where one of these oil companies has where light doesn't go out, we're asking them if they can extend. You put your fish there and they'll stay frozen. Now in Katsina, Kano, Plateau, Kaduna, those places for tomatoes are Mile 2. First of all, use crates instead of baskets to carry tomatoes, because the crates are preserved. They don't crush each other. The other ones will have to use solar panel or solar powered cold rooms, because the temperature for tomato or bananas or mangoes is 12 to 14 degrees.
So it has to be, you have to set it at that.
You set it at that. It will stay there. Now, if you go lower, you destroy the fruit. If it gets higher, it degenerates.
Yeah.
Because our country is hot, this is what we have to do. The woman has done her okra. One basket. That's her fortune.
Yeah.
And she's walking around and nobody buys it.
Exactly.
2-3 days later, she's lost it. It may not mean much to me. It's 5,000 naira in this basket, or 6. She was looking forward to selling it. And she loses it. So what we will do there is also teach the women, if you have okra, you're not selling, cut it and dry it. But around the markets, we were now asking the FCT, can you give us space to try some of these experiments? And then people know.
To build the
build the structures. So, and somebody will manage them. You store them there in the morning, you have your key, come and take your stuff. And then insure it also.
Yeah. Yes.
Goods insurance.
Yes.
In the morning, just in case something goes wrong, if the system fails, should it fail, you don't lose your stuff and say it's the work of God.
This is AMOI Unplugged. I'm Chioma Ikejani, and we'll be right back. You talked about flooding, and I want to go back to that. Unfortunately, Nigeria experienced a number of severe flooding in several agricultural states, such as Kebbi, Taraba, Benue.
Anambra had a bad one too.
Yeah, in the east. What has been the impact of flooding to food production in this country?
Let me say that we haven't felt the impact right now, because production is really big. It's almost 530,000 hectares of land were washed away.
Wow.
The worst place was Jigawa, because Jigawa is very flat land.
Okay.
But we have to take into account that this thing could have hit us badly if production capacity wasn't big before now. However, to avoid this thing happening in future, once we get the warnings from the Meteorological Society and the NIMET people, in future we'll tell farmers in this area, don't plant your crop till the rains have come and gone, and then we'll go now to dry season farming.
Yeah.
It's usually more productive and more controllable, but we lost quite some crop.
What is the government doing to further support post-harvest infrastructure?
Well, processing is one thing, add value, and then make the crop have a longer shelf life. That is still very minimal. For instance, I was saying to somebody, why are we wasting fruits here? And we're importing jams and marmalades. It doesn't take too much to do these things. We're processing our rice now. Sugar, we're coming on heavily.
Now, what role did the private sector play in all this? If at all, did they have a role in, in the scheme of agriculture?
Every small farmer is a private sector driver. The big names are in. Dangote is working on 6 rice mills with a capacity of 1 million tons per annum. So he alone will account for 1/7 of Nigeria's rice consumption.
My goodness.
6 mills. And there are big players in the system now. They're coming.
I think there's Olam.
Olam is big. Stein in Enugu.
BUA.
Boa is coming in. We have Wakot. We have Labana.
Yes. I've heard of Labana.
I'm into rice milling. I should have a 200 ton.
You're into rice milling?
Yes.
You're still farming?
Yes, I am. Hey, when I leave here, until I'm dead, I'll keep busy. So we are coming up. There are lots of, and the former minister Ugu, he has 2 mills in Ebonyi. Ebonyi has 8 large rice mills and lots of small ones. So people are in. In Chigawa there are 27 rice mills.
Wow.
Small and big. In Kano 1,242. In Kura and Kano Central. Massive things,
Wow.
And they can't cope.
That's incredible. But with everything, we can't go anywhere unless you have the policies backing and enabling these farmers to do what they do.
Yeah.
So are there any policy highlights that you would like to talk about or update? Anything that you've put into the legislators' arms? Because as much as we want to drive agriculture, if we don't have legislative policies that make it enabling for you and the farmers to do their work, we can't get anywhere.
You're right.
So are there any policy updates that you'd like to highlight?
We have a booklet now called The Green Alternative, which is our policy for 4 years. But I see the point you're making, and people ask me this. What if the next government decides not to be interested in this? There is no way we can dictate to another government.
You can mandate.
Or by the grace of God, we will continue. But if somebody else turns up and decides to alter it or knock everything down, what are the solutions? There's something they do in the US. There is a law there, an incoming minister of agriculture or defense can't alter anything unless the legislature approves. So you must inherit what you saw. If you have any reason to amend it, bring it to the legislature.
Exactly.
Then you defend it and let them agree with you that it's necessary. Otherwise, anybody can come and say, forget it. Let's bring in the ships again and bring rice.
Do you think that we're at a stage in our politics where we can say that government is a continuum?
I guess we did.
Particularly with agriculture.
Yeah, we did show it when we came.
Yes.
We didn't cancel anything.
Yeah, I'd like you to talk a little bit about that.
We didn't believe in policy somersaults. I mean, I have been in and out of this system for a while, so I realized that policy somersaults destroy more than they build. Take what you saw on ground, adjust if necessary, push on with it. My predecessor had what he called the GES, was giving support to farmers. But it was a partnership between state governments and the federal government. The state governments reneged when the economy went under and didn't pay their 25% support to the inputs we were giving. And we didn't have enough money in our budget to continue with it. So we had to slow it down and use another method to get inputs into them. Luckily, the Anchor Borrowers Program came in to help reduce the cost of input, so that helped us. So, but every other thing was expand on what was going on, add new things where necessary, and then grow the system. So nobody can say he was shocked by any change we brought into place. And then we're doing things like this bank thing. The BP is working now. Probably by the end of February.
What's the BP for
the Bureau
those?
of Private Enterprise.
Okay.
They are working on this, readjusting the Bank of Agri. And in a few days' time, you see in the newspapers, we're asking farmers, get ready to buy shares. This is your bank.
Do you have to be a farmer to buy the share? Anybody?
Any Nigerian who wants to buy shares.
So is it an IPO?
Yes. And we're asking Nigerians also, we won't allow any big person to buy up all the shares because we want everybody involved, especially younger people and small farmers and women. So at the AGM, you can send delegates from your cooperatives to come and harass the MD if he's posting bad results. And if it's because farmers are behaving badly, he'll tell them, you took loans you didn't pay. And if you don't, next year you'll get no money. Let's take responsibility. And once the farmers know that this, some years we might even decide at an AGM to reduce interest rates from 5 to 4, or increase it to 6.
It's actually quite exciting.
Exactly. So we're working on that.
Now, if you were to look back in the 3 years, what would you, if you were to say, what is your top 5 achievements? What would you say it is?
Well, first, my greatest achievement to be in the area of first the presidential support, because that passion he has, and he talks about it everywhere, that makes you realize you can't fail. Because if you let him down, you let the country down. So drive yourself. We work hard here, long hours. I travel a lot. I keep learning. 2, we've got the grain situation almost under control. 3, we've become a major exporter of agricultural produce, and we're expanding that. 3, we have excited the imagination of Nigerians, especially young and educated people, even professionals. It's not easy. Many of the ministers I meet when we attend conferences say they don't know what to do to get their youths into agri.
In Nigeria, they're very excited.
The excitement, believe you me. and these young people, boys and girls, their question is, where can I get land? We are acquiring land now to clear and get them in. We have a banana program coming, 20 million bananas to be planted.
Oh my God.
And tissue cultured, because there's a banana disease in the West Indies. And this is the shortest distance by air to Europe.
Oh my goodness.
And the banana business worldwide is $12 billion. Every Briton, on the average, consumes 12 bananas per year.
You know what I love about you? You are constantly, and it's a theme that I've seen throughout our conversation. You were so supportive to the average Nigerian farmer. You continue to boost local production, and you continue to support Nigerians.
I must.
And I'm so proud. I'm so proud of you, and it's a privilege to be here.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
An interesting one, I must say. The agriculture sector is here to stay. Why not join the revolution? It's a wrap, but you can follow the conversation on the social media platforms at AMOI Unplugged. Thanks for watching, and join me again as we explore another sector in the quest for economic diversification. I'm Chioma Kijani. See you next time.